Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Paul, Danny, and Greg. This is a packed weigh-in reaction video because there's four of us. Delighted to be joined by all of you gents. We are going to go straight into it. Both Rakhimov and Joe Cordina have made weight inside the super featherweight limit ahead of tomorrow night. I think, my opinion, they both looked a bit drawn, but we can maybe debate about who looks best or worst, how both fighters looked, and we'll give our final predictions as well. Paul, I will go to you first. What did you think of that way and the general appearance of both fighters there?
Yeah, I think if I had to pick out of the two who looked better, I actually think Rakhimov looked better. To me, Cordina looked, I don't see him hanging about at super featherweight for much longer, to be honest with you. He's in his 30s now, and I thought he looked, even when they were doing the face off, he's a little bit taller, and he's got quite a big frame, Joe Cordina. So I think out of the two, if you read anything into it, I think that Rakhimov looked the better. Do I read too much into it? Not really. I know you probably read a wee bit more into weigh-ins than I perhaps do, but yeah, just glad they both made weight now and we can get the fight on.
Definitely. Greg, what do you think? Do you agree with Paul about the kind of the appearance of Cordina there? What are your thoughts?
You know something, guys, I nearly agreed with Paul because when I first seen Cordina come on at the stage, I first seen Rakhimov, I thought that Cordina looked worse. But this is why I read so much into the weigh-ins. If you watch after Rakhimov looked like a killer psycho the way he was looking at Joe Cordina in the face-off. I don't know if you guys seen it where he turned around and he posed and tensed to the crowd. He looked gone, like really bad. So at first I thought Joe Cordina looked a little bit more drawn, but after I seen that, I thought, wow, Rakhimov doesn't look good. And we've seen it with Zelfa Barrett. He's a little bit vulnerable to the body. So yeah, man, I think both guys look a bit vulnerable. So that can only lead for a good fight.
Yeah, I'm agreeing. I thought that during the week when you see fighter images throughout the week, I thought Rakhimov didn't look great, but then I was wondering, is that just kind of just what he looks like normally, or does he just look quite drawn? And I actually personally think, considering Cordina hasn't had to make weight for a year now, I think he didn't look too bad. Whereas Rakhimov, it would be interesting to look at previous Rakhimov weigh-ins against Zelfa Barrett and Jojo Diaz and see how he's looked in comparison to today. But I don't think he looked great personally, considering he got dropped by Zelfa Barrett in his last fight as well. You can probably see which way my prediction's going. Danny, you were at the press conference yesterday. You travelled down to Cardiff. Thoughts on what the fighters looked like yesterday, what they looked like at the weigh-in as well, please.
I didn't even think Cordina looked great yesterday, to be honest. I thought he looked like he had just been dug up out of the ground today. Like his eye, he reminded me of like Devin Haney's weigh-ins for the Cambosos fights. Like his eyes were just so sunk in, and I think I noticed the image Greg was talking about after Rakhimov posed, or when he posed, he looked really gaunt. But I would be more inclined to your line of thinking, Elliot, where I just don't think he's a particularly good looking chap. So obviously it looks a bit worse when you've got down. So I think Cordina looks slightly the tighter to me. Even like watching some clips from him during the week, his speech doesn't seem 100%. And I don't know, it depends because obviously Rakimov's this pressure fighter. So if he's still there setting a pace on Cordina and he hasn't had much room to spare with the weight, could get a bit interesting down the second half of the fight.
Okay,
Danny, can I
cool.
quickly jump in and ask something? You were at the press conference yesterday. See, with the IBF, there's normally a £10 rehydration clause with most of their world title fights. Is that the case for this one? Do we know?
I'm not sure, mate. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
And that rehydration clause is normally very sharp in the morning, isn't it? I think I've heard people
Yeah.
say it can be like 8 in the morning. So how much of an impact that would have, I'm not sure. But I didn't hear a mention of it, to be honest with you.
Be a good talking point, guys, wouldn't it?
Yeah, interesting. I imagine there will be. We can maybe do another reaction video tomorrow morning for those that are awake. I probably won't be, to be honest. Cool. Really interesting, guys. I personally have got this down as a 50-50 fight. I think it could be one of the best fights to happen in the UK this year. I'm really looking forward to it. I love the story. One more question I've got, and that's I've got two questions. One is, what's your prediction? Second one is, Do you think the winner will move up in weight, considering what we've just discussed, will move up in lightweight? We're going to go in reverse. So we're going to start with Danny. Danny, what is your final prediction for tomorrow night?
Said before that Cordina will ride out some late adversary to cling on, and I'll stick with that, although a Rakhimov late stoppage wouldn't surprise me. He said he wants unifications at 130. He said like the likes of his Alpha Barrett fight don't interest him. So how big even is like a unification at 130? Like there's no marquee names, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was Cordina he moved up.
Okay, so it's 1-0 to Cordina so far. Greg, we're going to go to you next. What is your prediction?
I honestly don't know. I'm sitting on the fence. I've discussed it with Danny. I've discussed it with Paul. I've been changing my mind back and forth because I think Cordina he's a bit untested at that level. Yes, he knocked the guy out. It was fantastic, but it didn't tell us too much. I'm going to answer the other question first, and then I'll come back to the prediction. I think both fighters might remain at the weight if they look good, because who wants to go up to lightweight and get it on with like Devin Haney, Lomachenko, etc. So I think if Rakhimov wins, he'll defend the title again. If Joe Cordina wins, I think it will set up the Alpha Barrett fight. If I'm really pushed for a prediction, I think I can see Cordina maybe stopping him to the body. I think he's just got a little bit too much class for him, but Elliot will really depend on how making the weight has affected him for me.
Yeah, really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what the fighters look like when they get in the ring tomorrow, and compared to how they've just weighed in. Paul, what are your thoughts? Are you going for Cordina as well?
Yeah, I'm going for Cordina. I'm less on the fence than Danny and Greg. I think Cordina will win by stoppage. I know what you can't read into like one knockdown, and it's actually similar to thinking about, people are talking about this Tank Davis Ryan Garcia fight with the knockdown from Luke Campbell. You can't read too much into that, but I am reading too much into it. I think that Rakhimov showed vulnerability, and Cordina is better than Zelfa Barrett. I think Joe Cordina showed in his last fight he clearly carries a big punch as well. So I'm going to go with Joe Cordina to win via stoppage. And what about you, Stolly?
Cordina as well. I've seen odds of 9-4 for Cordina to win by stoppage. That's what I'm going for. I think Cordina's quality, and I think Rakhimov's a very, very good fighter, but I just think Cordina's that bit better. But we'll see. I wouldn't put my life savings on it. That's for sure. But we're doing a clean sweep with Cordina. And I think that he might move up to lightweight after this fight, just because that's where the bigger fights are. I think Cordina's 31 now. I think Danny made a point of kind of unifications at super featherweight aren't actually the big fights, because it's not a big name division. It's a tough division, but it's not a division full of big names. Whereas compared that to lightweight, and we don't